There have been so many moments in the last year when I've thought about what it would feel like just to stand here, to be looking out at a gathering of 4,000 men and women, quite literally from around the world. I can tell you it feels very special. As we sent out the first invitations, we felt like we were literally lighting the beacons and calling to men and women of courage and integrity to come and join us, to come and work with us, to rebuild the very foundations of our civilization.
Good morning, can you hear me?
Kate, you are actually live in the hall. We can hear you. Yeah, and we can hear you too.
Whoa.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now you are all party to the backstage conversations as well. What a treat. As we sounded the alarm, we wondered who would answer the call, knowing that those of you who would come would be those who have lived with truth and courage, with a vision to build a better world. The call went out to Australia and New Zealand, and more than 300 of you answered. The call went out to South America, and nearly 100 of you answered, to Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, and more than 100 from each have come. The call went out to the Americans, and over 1,100 of you are here. That's got to be Kevin. And the call went out to the Europeans, and more than 1,000 of you answered. And the call went out to the people of this extraordinary land, and 1,300 of you have come. From 96 countries, from the East, the West, the North, and the South, from hundreds of professions and across every sector and walk of life, you have come. And why did we call? Why did we call? Why are we gathering? And why have you come from the nations of the world? Because those of us who love our nations and who love the principles and values on which it is founded know that there is something that is wrong. We know that the narratives and the stories that we are telling ourselves about who we are and about our future is damaging us. We are living through a civilizational moment. We are living through a social revolution, a complete experiment. We're living through an energy revolution and a technological revolution. And like in the days of old, we're coming together to decide what is to be done. It was Frodo who said to Gandalf, "I wish it need not have happened in my time." So do I, said Gandalf, and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the times that we are given. So although there is something wrong, although there's something that needs course correcting, we do not gather in a declinist permacrisis, polycrisis spirit. We are gathering to decide what to do with the time that we have been given. We're gathering knowing that there is a better story and that the foundations of our civilization are good and solid and worth defending. We're gathering knowing that there is a pathway up and towards a pro-human, hope-filled, optimistic vision of our world. So at the start of our journey, across the 3 days that we will spend together, we will look back and examine the foundational principles that have guided every generation through their challenging times. It is time for us to remember. To remember these timeless principles that will equip us for the journey ahead. We're going to allow the deep echo of who we are to resonate once again. Today we will be mining the best of our inheritance. We will be asking, what are the ideas that have historically underpinned our flourishing? What was once self-evident but has been lost? What have we forgotten that we must remember? We're going to rediscover the values and virtues on which our civilization was built. The solid ground, the solid principles. An ethic based on freedom and human dignity. A culture committed to truth, and a people living with a secure identity, grounded by spiritual and philosophical foundations. Tomorrow we will consider the choices we now face to build a better future. We can choose to follow a narrative of decline, but we will end up fulfilling it. Or we can choose a pro-human, optimistic, hope-filled vision. And where our eyes look, our feet will walk, and we will build. And on the final day, we will bring out the builders, those who are showing us the best of who we are and how we can be those who create the solutions to today's challenges rather than complain about the status quo. We're going to stand at the crossroads and look and ask for the ancient paths where the good way is and walk in it. Many of you have spoken to us about what it has felt like out there over the last few years. And there's a poet who once wrote, "Through the eyes of men, it seems there's so much that we've lost. As we look down the road where all the prodigals have walked one by one, the enemy has whispered lies and led them off as slaves." And it was Marx who believed that by stealing a nation's history, you could steal that nation. At ARC, we believe it is time to claim back what has been stolen. Our hearts are stirred by stories of old, of the possibility of renewal, the early stirrings of something new beginning. We've heard of deeds of old, and there is a longing that the same would happen once again in our day. We want these days together to be renewing and refreshing, that we would leave confident in who we are, confident in our foundations, and ready to build courageously. We profoundly believe that the men and women gathered here will be those who rebuild the ancient ruins and restore the places long devastated, and that as we come together, we will strengthen one another for the task ahead. To end by drawing once again on Tolkien's inspiration. It was Gandalf speaking to King Theoden who said, "Perhaps your hands would remember their old strength better if they grasped your sword." It's time to remember, it's time to stand tall, and it's time to rebuild. Welcome aboard the Ark.